Excuse me. Yo, what's up? It's your host Maloney, breaking Wreckords Radio and the place to be, and we are here with another episode of On Toronto Time. You know what it is. We are bringing you nothing but jewels and gems, and I don't have anything to offer. It's just those who come on the show that have that to offer. And if there was any man that I could think about in this music industry since I've been working in it, is that this man has offered me probably the most of anybody. You know what I mean? So much love to my brother right here, man. Much love to my dude, my mentor. I want to thank you for coming on to the show because, we've done some interviews in the past.
Yes.
But I feel like, the best one we got was with Shortcut, but that still wasn't so much of a focused interview, right? I think it's only time we do it right. I love to see that you were just on the We Love Hip Hop. That made me happy to see. And then next week, you're on the next podcast with Rochester. And that made me happy to see. I'm like, oh, Chris is out here. You know what I mean?
Out here, podcast game is...
Yeah, man. But, getting your flowers. And being a lot... Like, these platforms, you should be on these platforms talking. You know what I mean?
Respect.
So it's beautiful to see. And I'm like, and there's nobody in the premise of this program. The reason why I'm making this show actually probably goes a lot to the things that you taught me about Toronto hip-hop just in our conversations together. You know what I mean? Like just little tidbits of knowledge and things that, really inspired about how many stories like that there are in what built up the infrastructure here, right? But anyways, I will shut the fuck up for a minute because we need to get this thing actually rolling with our guests here. We got Chris, quotation, got rocks, end quotation, Jackson in the place to be.
Thank you.
My man.
It's quite the introduction, man. It's good to be here. I appreciate it.
We had to give you a good introduction, you know what I mean? You deserve it.
Thank you.
But, yeah, man, it's, before we start anything, just want to say, thank you for the opportunity bringing me to Max initially as well, too. You taught me a lot of things, man. And I don't want to make this super mushy and all that, but, I just want to let you know I got a lot of appreciation for the things you've done, man.
That means a lot, man. And just to hear things like that, it kind of validates, all the time, all the effort that someone puts in and not even kind of realizes. You know what I mean? Because I'm just like we first connected, and I was like, I like what you do. You're a good interviewer, right?
Yeah.
And then it just went from there.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll always look after people that I think have potential, right, and are good people, right, easy to connect with.
Yeah.
Right. Because at the end of the day, it's all about relationships in this industry.
Yep.
In the scene. So it's about the relationships you build, and it was easy to build a relationship with you. So it's good to see that you keep going, and you brought me back to Max.
You're saying you kind of like me a little bit then?
Just a little bit. A little bit.
That's pretty cool.
You're getting there. Yeah.
You know what? See, and this is why these are my favorite kind of interviews, because we've always had such a good relationship that, I feel like every time we see you, it's like we picked up where we left off, whether it was
Pretty
2 years
much.
ago, whatever, you know what I mean? The conversation. And, it took us damn near, 2-3 hours just to even get the interview rolling, right?
And you should have been recording the whole time.
You know what?
I'm just saying, I want to put it out there.
There's probably gold, but you know what? I think that's a thing in relationships as well. You know what I mean? Like, right. I like to appreciate the moments that are in the moment.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Enough.
Not everything needs to be content, dog.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of where I was coming from on it. It's like we could be recording, but
have you been on the gram lately?
Man.
Everything's on the gram. It's like I don't need to see some of this stuff.
I can't do that. I can't do all that.
Right.
I just seen you came back to the gram actually. So you've been doing a media run, and we're gonna actually. Most of these interviews would be a little more formatted, but
right.
This is different.
Do your thing,
different.
man.
This is different.
I'm no different.
But you've come back to the gram recently.
Right.
You're doing a media run. So I have to ask, before we get into the chronological order of things, what do you got on? There's something coming. You're working on something, dog. What's happening?
Well, it's good that some people see. Let me just jump to Big Ticket for a second, because one of my goals with Big Ticket, right, was to create a blueprint.
Yeah.
Right? And those who are watching would understand and hopefully pick up and go with it.
Yeah.
There were some weak attempts that fell very short. But I'm saying all that to say that you pay attention, right? You're smart enough and wise enough to know that if I'm showing my face, as you put it, I'm back on the gram. I never left. It's just that my posts were about my kids or something else, right? But you're seeing something.
Yeah.
You're picking up on something.
Yeah.
So good for you. That's all I got to say about that.
Ah, man. All right. Well,
maybe I'll give you some insight a little later on.
Okay.
I just want to give you your flowers for recognizing that and even pointing that out.
Well, I mean, I think.
And to that point, I want to say.
I can see it.
I want to say to that point.
It speaks for itself.
Is that sometimes when you do things, it even goes back to like how I got in this game and every successful artist in Canada, and specifically Toronto, who kind of like came up from the ground and kicked in some doors will tell you the same thing, especially for my generation, is that we were just doing it because we were kids. We didn't really know what we were doing or what was going to happen, or what the outcome was going to be. So sometimes the universe works in mysterious ways, right? And I'm a strong believer in how the universe works and the power of belief. Yep. Right?
And so everything's timing and it happens for a reason.
Yeah, you know absolutely. I mean? So I'm saying all of this.
And you got to recognize an opportunity, though it may come in disguise of a hindrance.
Absolutely. And I'm saying all this to say exactly that, is that you are identifying me as going on a media run, right?
Not someone else, subtle one though.
Yeah, but someone else kind of said to me something similar.
Yeah.
Right? But it was like, yeah, I guess it kind of looks that way. Okay, well now maybe that's the sign or that's the life, right?
Yep.
That I need to move forward with this vision that I've always had or wanted to do, but that motivation or that sign hasn't been there for me. So now I see an opportunity, right?
Yep.
So that's why you're identifying it now as a media run.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why when you said, oh, it should get you, I don't mean to make... I make this voice when I talk as someone else.
No, it's always I got it.
Okay, so don't be offended.
But I do actually talk like that, just for people wondering.
So you were like, after you saw me on those two interviews, or one of them anyway, I think it was the first one.
Yeah.
You were like, hey man, we should get you on my podcast. Automatically, I was like, absolutely, you should.
Yeah.
Because by that point, the Rochester one was already in the bag.
Oh, okay,
so
really?
I did that
See, I didn't even
Fridays.
know that. I did that
before.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right?
Interesting.
Yeah. But everybody's got their plan and how they lay things out.
Yeah.
Right? So now for me, it's making sense now. So when you hit me up and you're like, oh, maybe you should do mine, I'm like, absolutely, I should.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm just happy that you responded so soon to get me on.
Yeah.
Because hopefully that means the content will be out sooner and it can continue in my media run because it probably is going to lead up to something. So...
Well, people pick up on that motivation. And then motivation is a snowball, right?
And it's supposed to be.
Yep.
Yeah. Right? So that's good. Yeah. Right? Like, you just said, this is the first time you've been back here in how long to do an interview?
About 2 years.
Right? So that's that motivation. That's that snowball. Right? He's like, shit, I got to get this guy on and talk. Oh, I got to bring him to Max. Let's do it.
Well,
right?
See, and that's the beautiful... See, and like this is probably going to be the best episode of the show we've ever done. Let me just say it now, because there's so much other, personal. It plays almost two roles, like a podcast and what it will get into, which is what it's based on. Right. But it's such a beautiful kind of irony, actually, that the first interview I've come back here to do is with you.
That is kind of that's the universe.
Exactly.
Bro. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You can't deny the power of the universe.
Exactly.
And a lot of people walk around and they don't pay attention to signs.
No.
Right? It's like red flags.
Yep.
Don't ignore those red flags, bro. If you think it's a red flag, it's a red flag. Man.
That's a hard one too, man. Trust flags. Me. Because
but once you understand how to use...
But you want to trust people.
Well, you want to trust people or you just trust no one.
What kind of person are you? Are you the type of person that tries to trust and then learns to be betrayed, or are you the person that just doesn't trust anybody?
No, I just don't trust anybody. But that doesn't mean I don't love people.
That's true. Okay.
Right? I still love people and I respect people.
That's an interesting complex.
Just in my mind,
I don't trust people.
Yeah, there's always that doubt of trust. And to be honest with you, because I'm a grown man and I can talk about these things, I believe that that's because if you go back and look at me, I think it's because of the fact that I adopted, and I was adopted from birth.
Oh, really?
So my trust issues, I think, stem from that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because most of the time, all our life, we try to get answers,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, no.
I'm at the point of my life, and I don't care how this sounds to you, I know all the answers, right? And I'm not wrong. And you can take that and apply it to many different contexts. But anyway, I'm opening up and I'm being honest with you that, I don't trust anybody. And part of that has to stem from
that.
I think, from being adopted and not wanted.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
it's not even, and that's the thing, that's the feeling, it's not wanted. It doesn't even necessarily mean not, but I mean,
Right.
I'm speaking generally.
But when you
not
think about it,
specifically, right?
if like,
But,
yeah,
it can't help but warrant that. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like how I could find it very hard to trust people if that's
right.
You
And
know.
I'm not saying that's the only reason. There's
No,
tons of
but-
other reasons. And again, I'm not wrong because my distrust eventually played out.
yeah.
Therefore, I can't really be that mad.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be mad on a different level, but I'm not mad at myself like, fuck, man.
I trusted that guy.
I trusted that guy.
You're more hurt
I knew this
'cause
guy
you-
was going to fuck me.
You're more
Well,
hurt
not
because
literally,
you may have
pause.
loved them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Or I'm just disappointed that it actually did.
Yeah.
Because you always want to keep that bit of hope, right?
Yep.
And at the same time, there's always
So love and
always-
trust are almost the same thing in different
no,
regards.
No, they're not the same at all. Absolutely not. And that's what I was going to say.
Similar
There's
qualities.
there could be similar qualities between love and trust. Yes, because I can love without trusting you,
Yeah.
and I can have love for you.
But even the reaction
Right?
to
And
it
wish
is
the best for
even the
you.
reaction's similar, right? Because as to where, you know what I mean?
No, because I could.
It's
you
still
know,
disappointment.
You're really disappointing me, bro. You know, I still got love for you, but you really came down a notch. 'cause
But if you trusted somebody, you could be disappointed. You know what I mean? Like the reactionary, it's like
I
it's
think
almost
it's-
like a
Well,
perspective
trust
thing.
can be broken real quick, but
Yeah.
love,
love is a lot stronger.
That's true.
Right?
That is true.
Yes. You gonna introduce your mans
That's
and
true.
them too to the podcast so they know who that third voice is?
Yes, we got Alex Kuchma in the place to be, and anybody who's watching the show on this platform that's familiar with it already knows who Alex is. But actually, before we really dig deep, let's give a round of applause for Alex. He's put in a
Hey.
lot of dope work. He kept Breaking Records Radio afloat when I was not able to do interviews as a new father. So let's make another round of applause for Alex. Interviewed some great people and created some great content, some great moments, and did a better job than I could have done in most of those situations.
I
So why am-
appreciate it. I appreciate
Why
it.
am I talking to you then? I'm just playing.
All right, but so to keep things on the subject of the actual show on Toronto
Yes.
time, we do have to actually go back. So basically, the first thing I want to ask you is, let's just take it right from the beginning because you have seen so many early parts of Toronto hip hop that I feel like even if I asked you a question at an entry point, we could miss something. So we're gonna start right from the beginning. Where you were born in Toronto,
I was born
Yes.
in Toronto. Yes.
and when did you move outside of Toronto?
I'm not quite sure because I was really young, like really young.
Yes.
Where'd you move to?
We left Toronto to move to Bob Cajun because my dad owned a bunch of property, a large amount of property. And we used to go there in the summer. I have memories of going there as a very small child and like summer vacation. We go to the trailer. We had
Yeah.
a trailer, right? I also have memories of every time we would go to the trailer, the day we get there, my parents would have to spend pretty much the day cleaning it out because when you're not there, local kids or whatever would
Oh,
like, break
really?
in and
Oh, really?
yeah. I'm
Wow.
pretty sure that's where I saw my first like Playboy magazine or something.
No way.
Yeah. I swear to God, in beer bottles. I have those visuals,
Yeah.
right? So
And that's
I
from
remember
when
that.
you still lived in Toronto. Those are your
Yeah,
memories going.
yeah, like
Yeah.
in the summertime, right? And
Bob
then-
Cajun, where's that at? Is that in Ontario?
Bob Cajun is in Ontario. Yeah. It's
You never heard the
north.
Tragically Hip song?
No.
Bob Cajun. Oh, you don't know that song? Oh man,
That's a
Yeah, it's a
classic.
classic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You got me. I'm gonna start singing now. But yeah, no. And then I guess my parents decided they wanted to move there and build a house.
Yeah.
Right? So we had the house built, and then we moved in. But the thing is we didn't have any running water because there was no infrastructure for that. where this land was.
Oh, wow.
So in order to do that, they would have had to pay to drill and find it and do all of that shit. And my dad didn't have that kind of go out. You know, like he was just lucky. I don't know how he got it, but he had, I think it was 14 acres of land. It sounds like a lot.
That's a decent amount.
And in hindsight, like, I wish he would have kept it.
Yeah.
That 14 acres in Bob Cajun now, jeez, that's like prime real estate, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, you go through things in life, and then after a couple of years living there, we used to melt snow in the winter for water and boil it. And
Really?
oh, yeah.
Wow.
So this is some real life,
Wow.
intimate stuff I'm sharing, right?
That's actually, like, that's crazy.
And I was like super young, right?
Yeah.
So these are some visual memories, and I know certain stories, right? Anyway, so fast forward, we were there for a couple of years, and we decided my mom wanted to be closer to her sisters.
Yeah.
So we moved to Welland, Ontario.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, man.
I know Welland. I've spent some time in Welland.
Right?
Interesting.
How
So
old
I-
were you at that point when you moved? To
So again, like the numbers for me are really bad, but
before 10?
when I left before 10, yeah, we moved there before I was 10,
Okay.
maybe 7.
Okay.
7 or 8. I don't know, what grade are you in at 8?
4 maybe? I don't know. I'm terrible at that shit. That's a guess.
I want to say maybe, yeah, I have no idea, to be honest. But I was still a kid, right?
Grade
Not
3.
3, maybe grade 5.
Okay.
I don't know. We moved to Welland. I bought a house there, right? Sold the one in Bob Cajun, bought a house in Welland, big corner house. It was pretty nice.
Wait, so someone bought the house in Bob Cajun
Someone did, yeah.
with no running water?
Yeah.
Enough for you guys to buy a house in Welland?
Yeah.
Damn, I feel bad for that person.
I know, right?
I'd take Welland over Bob Cajun any day for running water.
I don't know. I wouldn't do that now. Bob Cajun's nice, man. I love the
Yeah,
outdoors.
but
Right?
running water.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
But I was a kid, so it didn't mean nothing
No,
to
that's
me.
actually
I
kind of
didn't-
sick though. That's like,
Right? It was like we were roughing it.
yeah.
You
It's
know,
more-
no cable TV. We just had like the antenna.
That's sick.
So we always had CBC. So it's kind of ironic that I work for CBC now.
No, man.
Yeah.
Bro, that's the universe.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Like the shit is real. People
Wow.
think that it's just like a buzzword or,
No, it's
you know, it's
real.
for people who do yoga. Fuck that. I don't do yoga, but
No.
trust me, the universe
My girlfriend does
is
yoga.
real. There's nothing wrong with yoga. I'm not shitting on yoga. I'm just saying.
Right.
All right?
It makes her happy. It's pretty sick, actually. Shout out to
I wish
Lindsay.
I could do yoga and focus like that, but my mind is just like all the time.
Lindsay wants me to tell you she said hi as well.
Good up, Lindsay. Mommy.
She got the shout out and everything.
There you go. So anyway, so then we lived in Bob Cajun or Welland for a while, and my mom realized like there's just nothing for you here, man. Like, because at
Yeah.
the time, like I was literally like the only POC person of color, right, in Welland. So because what I didn't tell you is when I was adopted. Obviously, I'm biracial for those who maybe not be watching or don't know me or whatever, or for your own personal information. But I'm biracial, black and white. But I was adopted from birth, and both of my adopted parents are both white.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I have brothers and sisters.
So that right there is
It's a mind fuck.
is a dynamic that, I mean, what is that? And
Well, it
see,
gives you
sounds
different-
so blanket to ask, like, what is
Right.
that like? So I'm trying to think of a more intricate way to ask you, but I mean, realistically, that's what it's going to
Right,
boil
like,
down
how
to.
was
However
that?
I word it. Like, how is that growing up in that? Because you can only
As a
imagine
kid?
the complex
Right.
in your mind of which, like, that
Right.
would create in so many situations for so many reasons.
Yeah, it didn't become complex for me until I was older. Like as a kid, I didn't know, right? I think I said on another show, like, I think though, to be honest, the first time I really experienced racism, when I was that little young child in Bob Cajun,
Yeah.
I went to this school called Buckhorn, and there was a lot of indigenous children at this school.
Yeah.
So that was, for me, in hindsight, that's really I see now, oh, they were different from the other kids. And now I understand why they were being teased more and why people were asking me, what are you? What are you?
But
Are
as
you
a kid, you
Indian?
couldn't
And as a
decipher
kid, I'm
those?
like, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
Chris Jackson.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm just a kid.
Right? So So yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but
No, it's just kind of understanding.
being adopted.
Yeah.
So as a kid, like I didn't know any better. I just knew that I had parents that loved me. I had brothers and sisters, right?
Yeah.
I had a dog. I had cats. You know, like I was just a kid growing up in a family.
Yeah, but as you got older,
Right? But then you get a little older, and then when I'm in Welland now things are starting to like be weird.
how old are you in Welland?
Right? Again, I don't want to give exact numbers, but I left Welland and came back to Toronto in the middle of grade 6.
Okay.
So
Right?
you were only there for a couple of years.
So I was
So-
in
but
Welland.
these are
We were in
develop-
Welland for
these are
about
developing
4 years.
stages of your life, though.
Yeah, we were in Welland for about 4 years, and I remember changing schools. So we moved there. I went to one school. I think it was called Ross. No, it was called Riverside. And that was more like a younger grade school. I think in Toronto now it's like after grade 6, they change. Anyway, I just remember going from, for whatever reason, going from Riverview to Empire because I could no longer go to Riverview because they only went to a certain grade, which might have been grade 5. No, it couldn't have been. It had to be like grade 4. This is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Sorry. I don't want to get lost in the sauce, but this doesn't matter. Really, the age, the point that I think I was getting to was that growing up as a kid, I didn't really know any different.
Yeah.
My parents never treated me different. They never really explained the whole adoption thing. Then when we moved to Welland,
They
I'm
never
a little
explained
older.
it, really.
No, then I'm a little older now in Welland. So then they start explaining because now I'm getting more questions like, what are you? What are you? So I'm asking, I don't know, what am I? What do they mean? And then it's like, oh, the biracial and you were adopted from birth and your father was this, your mother was this, right? And then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But then it still didn't really matter to me.
Yeah.
And I remember my best friend that I had, his name was Jeff Snyder. Okay, my best friend in Welland. And his older brother, he was like nice to me, and his mother was super nice to me. But his older brother would like call me coon and spook and
Whoa.
yeah, because that was like kind of like still
Did
out
you
there.
understand what those?
But I had no idea what he really meant
Okay.
until after. Then you realize and you're like, holy fuck! This whole time these motherfuckers have been saying some real ignorant shit to me, right? And I remember my uncle one time.
And you had no idea.
I really had no idea. I knew
You're
it was
young.
bad because his mother would always be like, "Oh, Jeffrey, stop!" Or not Jeffrey. What was his brother's name? Whatever the fuck his brother's name was. Like, "Oh, Michael.
Yeah.
Oh, Michael, stop that. Don't be mean or don't be rude or whatever." Right? Yeah. And I remember his father too used to.
So that's your introductory, basically, to like
Yeah.
racism.
Yeah. And then his dad
That's
too.
so
His dad
fucked
was
up.
like, his dad didn't live with them. He was
Yeah.
like in and out. But his dad was a trapper, so he would like trap coons and different things.
Oh,
and
like
then-
an actual
and then
trapper.
hang them and
We're
skin
not
them
talking
and
today's
skin them
standards of a trapper.
and then skin them in the basement and rabbits and oh yeah, I saw all that shit.
Whoa.
That was weird. So I'm just happy I made it out of there alive.
Jeez.
One of the most powerful things that I think I ever heard
Yeah.
is I was listening to a TED Talk from George Takei,
Yeah.
who's the actor that played in Star Trek. And he was a Japanese American, and he was raised in the internment camps in World War II. And he had said that when he was raised as a child in this setting, in this environment, and we all understand from an outsider's perspective that that's a brutal environment to raise a child in. But he's a child. In
He didn't know any better.
Didn't know any better. And he says that he would go outside and the guards in the watchtowers would shine the light on him when he would leave at night to take a walk around the camp. And he would leave and they would shine this light and they would follow him with the light, spotlight. They would follow him around wherever he'd walk. And he'd look up at the guards and he'd thank them. And he'd say, "Oh, thank you so much for lighting this path for me. This is great. Thank you."
But he didn't realize.
No, yeah. And it's
Wow.
that idea of childhood.
Innocence.
You can say innocence,
Yeah.
but yeah, this idea
Naiveness.
of naivety and
Naiveness.
this idea that you're able to turn your setting into happiness. I think a child is capable of being truly
Absolutely.
happy regardless of the environment.
Yeah,
that they're
yeah,
facing.
Yeah, and
yeah,
as a
yeah.
father, you can now attest
Yeah.
to that. Absolutely.
I noticed that with myself. Like
That's a very good point, and that's
have
where
s-
trauma comes from. Almost as when you start to realize the world, and you think about what your childhood was like, and you're like, it that like unansweredness and like what the fuck of like how your world was. Yeah, that's
like in
kind of
hindsight,
almost.
I can complain about a lot of things that happened in my childhood, but as a child,
It was
I
fine.
loved it.
Yeah,
I had
exactly.
fun.
Yeah.
We
That's
we,
fucked up, eh?
Well, and the
caused
thing
a
is, it
ruckus.
just
It
makes
was
you who
fun.
you are, right? It
Yeah.
makes you stronger. And
It
if I
does.
didn't have the childhood that I had,
You wouldn't.
I wouldn't be who I am now. And
Yeah.
I'm happy with who I am.
Well, that's
Right? And I wouldn't
perfect,
have
right?
the perspectives that I have.
Once again, the universe, though.
Right? It's
Everything
the
happens
universe,
for a
right?
reason,
Yeah,
and you need to go through childhood
Absolutely.
traumas to certain degrees to build you for this world. But so that type of a complex. What kind of age do you start to really start to like? It resonates with you. Are you still living in Bob Cajun at this time? Or are you in Welland? Or are you
No,
back
we're
to Toronto?
we're in Welland, and I started experiencing some
But this is when it
racism,
really
and
starts to
ignorance.
resonate.
And no, it's kind of like, okay, whatever. I'm still a kid. Then we moved back to Toronto.
Before you move back to Toronto,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt here, but before you move back to Toronto, what is your perception or viewpoint of Toronto prior to moving back? Well, you're still in Welland. Do
Well,
you
see,
think
that's
of
the
it
thing
as
when-
this big city that
Yeah, for sure. Because when we
dream?
lived in Welland for 4 or 5 years, I don't exactly know. Our summer vacation was to go to Toronto for a
So,
week.
like the opposite of what, like
Yeah. So
when you were
we're
a
in the
kid.
city. We want to leave the city. We're out of the city. We want to go to the
back.
city.
So it was your dream as a
Right?
child kind of thing. There's this
It's not my no. It was never my dream to go to the big city. I'm just saying that we went to Toronto for a week every summer
Yeah.
as for summer vacation.
what did you
So
think
I
about
got to.
Toronto?
I loved it. It was a big city,
Okay.
right? But I think I was also too young at that point to form any opinion of, oh, I want to move here and
Yep.
be this person. No, I just enjoyed going there for summer vacation.
Yeah.
because it was fun. It was different.
And when you did end up moving back to Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
Was this done like as yourself when you moved
it was
out?
it was
or
cal-
was
no,
it
it
as
was
family.
No, it was
a family
calculated.
move?
It was
Okay,
calculated by
okay.
my mother. All right, so maybe this is where I get some of my calculated thoughts from. But she knew that there was no opportunity. The older I got,
Yeah.
the less opportunities there
Oh.
would be for me
Mm-hmm.
in Welland. All right, I've went back to Welland a couple of years ago and did a whole tour and everything. Right,
Did you enjoy
and
it?
it's yeah, I loved it. I loved it, and it's because it brought back a lot of memories.
Yeah.
Right, but it's completely different now.
Yeah.
You know, it's
A
it's
lot more
diversified now. It's more developed. There's more going on, right? But at the age that I was at and getting to, there wouldn't have been anything for me there. So my mom recognized that and said, "Okay, we got to move back to Toronto."
That's amazing, actually.
Right? So yeah, that's love,
Yeah.
right? So we moved back to Toronto, and then that's when I really the multiculturalism sunk in.
And when you moved back to Toronto, which area did you move?
I moved to
into?
Flemingdon Park.
So you did move into
Yeah,
Flemingdon,
so
right?
I moved to
then?
Flemo.
Okay.
Yeah, right?
And Flemo is, and this is why all of this history is important, because Flemo is really the beginning subject matter of the conversation we're about to have about the city.
Okay.
And so, in all this period of time when you moved to Flemo, I know that years are bad with you, but do you have an idea around the year that this was?
Well, I moved, it was in the 80s, so maybe early 80s, like 83.
Really? Okay.
Are you a
Yeah.
fan of hip hop culture at that period of time?
Nope.
No idea it exists.
Didn't even know hip hop was a thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. When I lived in Welland, like
Who would be listening?
I used to
hip-hop
paint my
was?
face like Paul
Kiss?
Stanley from Kiss. You feel me? There was no There was no.
But wait a minute. So
Hip-hop
you're kind of like
influence.
DMC. You're like a classic rock fan.
Pretty
earlier
much.
than a hip hop.
Yeah. Well, I'm a classic. Yeah, I'm a classic. Well,
I
now
want to just have a rock and
when-
roll conversation.
when
with you
people ask
someday.
me about genres of music, like 60s and 70s psychedelic is my favorite.
really,
Right? I
Yeah.
can't name every song,
do you
but
like
I know
Season
that
of
I
the Witch
like.
by Donovan.
I don't know. I might if I hear
You
it.
probably do.
Right? I probably do. Right? Right?
Yeah.
So and then we get into like 70s and 60s funk. Like I love all music
Yeah.
of all genres,
Sure.
right? But growing up as a kid, up into Welland, there was no hip hop. There wasn't a lot of black music in my life at all.
Yeah.
Right? We're living in Welland, we could catch some Buffalo channels. So There was
like,
whatever
some
you
Motown
see
and
on
stuff
there.
like that?
You might, I might see some of that.
Yeah.
But again, it's not. I'm not sinking. It's not sinking in as like a culture or anything, right?
Yeah.
And they're still teaching you in school about slavery and black people are pieces of shit.
And
You know what I'm
that's-
saying?
See, and that might be too deep for this right now.
Probably.
Where we're going to go. But that's another complex, actually, of a conversation that, once again,
But
I
it
would love to
ties
dive
in.
into,
Yeah,
but so-
I understand the direction you want to go, but it also ties into what we're going into, right?
Yeah.
Which is the introduction for me, the starting
To
point for
hip-hop.
me.
Yeah.
So it was when I moved back back to Toronto and started junior high school in the middle of grade 6. And I think it was either the middle of grade 6 or grade 7, and Curtis Blow's song Basketball.
Oh, shit.
I'm going to credit that with my, I don't want to say it's my introduction, but I remember listening to that. So I had to tape it from the radio on a cassette tape, right?
Do you remember the brand of cassette tape?
It was probably a Maxell,
More importantly, do you remember the radio station?
right? The radio station would have been CKLN.
Okay.
It would have been A Fantastic Voyage,
Yeah.
right? It had it was always See, Ron DJ'd on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
But on Sundays, he was more like dance and
Oh, really?
different
so
stuff.
He had kind of like
and then
a
he
genre,
changed the Sundays, I think, to reggae. Anyway,
which
yeah.
is what he eventually ended
Yeah.
up going to.
Yeah. So Saturdays and Sundays were the times you would tune into CKLN in the afternoon, 1 to 4. And that's when we would hear the hip hop and the funk and stuff like that. So I know 100% that I taped Basketball off of CKLN,
Fantastic Voyage.
Fantastic Voyage. And then I played it back on my cassette player and wrote down all of the lyrics.
No.
I wrote down all of the lyrics.
How long did it take you?
I don't know. It took a long time, an evening, when
This
I was
is-
probably supposed to be doing homework, but I was on the basketball team, and this was
You
going
had
to be.
to know this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was grade 7, right? Because grade 6 I was still new, and
This is the first hip hop
right.
song.
So
you
for
hear.
me, this is
blowing
my
my mind.
introduction now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was always like you listen to the radio and you hear things, but if I could put a time on it, it would be then.
Yeah.
Curtis Blow's Basketball. I wrote out the lyrics because that was going to be our warm-up song for our team,
Wow.
right? In Valley Park. So that was really my introduction, and then I loved it. I identified with the music, and there was also a lot of informative.
Especially in the era you grew up in.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, right? So there was
Informative.
like hip hop has always been like the CNN of the hood,
Yep.
right? So there's always been a social political side to hip hop,
Yep.
right? And that was the message that really got me. And it's hip hop. I credit hip hop and like Public Enemy and
I have to
Ice
ask,
Cubes
just
and
because
those
you
groups.
said that, can I just
Yeah.
ask? But when did you first hear the message?
I don't remember. Around the same time.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because it would all get played on CKLN.
Yeah.
So you hear all these songs plus the latest songs from New York, right?
Yeah.
And then people like our friends, my friends, not me, but my friends would have cousins and relatives who lived in New York. And
Yeah.
they would bring back mix CDs, or they would go there, or they would send them by mail, and then we'd all gather at the community center and hear these tunes, and like, that was my introduction to hip hop, was
Wow.
what the tapes that we were getting directly from New York and the Fantastic Voyage program.
Because it came from Fantastic Voyage,
Mm-hmm.
did you have an idea that it was a black art form? Were you able
Yeah,
to pick that
absolute-
up and resonate with that aspect of
Yeah,
it?
abso-
Oh,
early
that's
on?
actually
absolutely.
a good question because, without music videos and stuff, like,
Yeah, no, absolutely, because of lyrics,
Yeah,
right? And that's
yeah.
that's the point I was getting to, is that for me, being biracial, growing up in a white family,
yeah,
right? My real introduction to black culture and black history was through hip hop.
wow.
Right? So from the songs I'm hearing, the lyrics, and even when you go back and listen to them now, like there's a message in the message.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's
And so
always
hip-hop
been that way.
Hip hop has almost
It's always been that
more
way.
of a connection to you than just the average appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely,
person
because
appreciates
that
it.
educated me,
Yeah.
right? That really turned me on to people, whether it was like Marcus Garvey or Malcolm X or
Yeah.
anybody before
Wow.
them, after them. It's like that. That's when I found
Learn
my
to
identity.
identify with
Can I
yourself.
I
ask
could
you?
identify with that.
Can I ask you when you started doing that journey? Because that's a separate journey, right? When you start diving into Malcolm X or Marcus Garvey, UNIA, meeting halls, that sort of thing. When do you start diving into that?
What do you mean diving into it? Diving into the research, or
Diving into the research, diving into your own cultural roots,
just
beyond
every
just hip hop music.
well, there was nothing beyond hip hop was everything, because
Okay.
hip hop would tell you everything, right? And then from there, you like it's hard for me. Like, I'm not sure I understand the question. Really, to be honest with you,
there's
like
a Dead Prez lyric from They Schools where he says, back in '89, I went to school with some redneck crackers. Right around the time Third Base dropped the Cactus album, but I was reading it. I was reading Malcolm. I changed my name in '89, cleaning parts of my brain like in '89, and what that to me tells me is that as a family unit, this guy's a kid. He's 6, 7, 8 years old. As a family unit, they decide that they want to take a journey into teaching him of Black excellence, teaching him of their history, their cultural history. And he starts to get that education. Now, he's a fan of rap music at that period of time, clearly, right? Right around the time Third Base drops the Cactus album. He's aware of what's happening in the hip-hop world. But that's a separate journey for him than the cultural roots.
for me, it was the same.
Same time.
It was all one, because hip hop was my journey, was my cultural journey, right? And then through there, you do your own research and you do your own learning, and you start to form your own opinions, right? And that's what hip hop really did for me. Because when I think back about it now, I didn't really have an identity until hip hop. Then I saw something that
reflected yourself.
that reflected myself. I just related to it. There was something about it, the message, the whatever, seeing people like myself, whatever it was, right? So that just really opened my eyes, because my parents weren't going to teach me about Black history and Black culture, because they didn't really know it.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
fair.
they just are two people who have good hearts, and you know what I'm saying?
In today's world, and I don't mean this towards your parents in any regards, right? I'm saying in today's world with what we know now, I think that should be like a social responsibility to parents who adopt a biracial child, is to teach them that. You know what I mean?
And I think parents do it
For the most
right,
part.
but they do it to the extent that they know how to do it.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
You understand what I'm
Yes,
saying?
'cause
So,
it's
and
a
that's
hard
why my
thing.
mom got me the fuck out of Welland,
Yeah.
because she's like, no,
This
like,
isn't the right
he needs to
place.
be around more people that are like him, so we can have this identity, right?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
And,
at what point do you start realizing that there's a local hip-hop community in Toronto? You're aware of CKLN.
Quick, just quick.
Exactly what I was just gonna ask.
That's why he's your co-host now,
Yo, let's go.
right? So I think immediately, right?
Okay.
Because you're a kid, you're hanging out at the resource center, the community centers.
And this is where kind of
Right.
the earliest hip hop scenes you remember are prominent.
That's
are,
where they
is
all
at the
started.
rec-
They're
yeah,
at the
okay.
rec centers, right?
Yeah,
and
which
in the
was
streets.
the same with New York too.
Yeah,
actually.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like
Roller
when you
skating
watch
rinks.
those, when you watch those movies from New York and the old hip hop and the
That's
crews,
how it was here.
The crews battling, and it was exactly like that here.
So you remember the crews battling and everything.
Oh, absolutely,
So
man.
like, what's like?
Absolutely, and that's the thing. It's like if
And
you
this
had a
is
beef with
Flemo.
someone, and if you had beef with someone, it's like you'd be like, yeah, all right, I'll challenge you to a freestyle battle. And then that's how you get over on someone. Sure, there was like fights and different things like that, but we could go to other hoods, right?
And battle.
And battle
yeah,
another
yeah.
MC without worrying about gun talk and all of that stuff.
And were you rhyming?
Right? I was never rhyming. I rhymed. I tried my hand at rhyming, absolutely. I recorded a few things, but what got me into the scene
Yeah.
as what was my connection, how could I fit in,
Yep.
was DJing. So I started DJing in grade 7. And like at the junior high school dances and stuff. So and my friend started
what
a
was your first pair
DJ
of
crew.
decks?
My first I bought a mixer before I had turntables.
Really?
Radio Shack?
Yeah. Of
Radio-
course. Yeah.
Ah.
Everybody had the radio. If you didn't have the Radio Shack, you're
Well,
not about that
$100,
life.
Radio Shack.
Yeah. The realistic. Yeah. That was a classic, man. Insert picture of it here.
Oh man.
Right? So I bought a realistic mixer. I didn't have no turntables. I had a few records. But my buddy, who's like a year older, he had turntables. And he used to DJ. He was like they call him Genos back in the day.
Okay.
right? So they were into like Madonna and that type of dance music, the 80s dance music, right? And he would DJ that type of music. So I would just kind of like, just watch and be enamored by what he was doing. And then I had a next friend, Greg G. He was more like a hip hop and a reggae DJ. And he had turntables, but he didn't have a mixer.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
So then I would lend him the mixer. So just going back to like, as a kid, we're all listening to these mixtapes at the community centers, and we all want to be rappers, and we're emulating everything we're hearing.
Yep.
Right? And there were magazines back in the day, like Right On Magazine, and I'm forgetting the name of some of them, but Right On was a big one. And there were magazines that would feature like rap artists or R&B artists at the time, Salt and Pepper or Heavy D or LL Cool J or the Beastie Boys or whoever, even before their time, Run DMC. And I would take their pictures as a kid, right? And you're a fan of the music. Like, oh my God, you look up to these artists.
Yeah.
So I'd read the magazines, look at them, and read liner notes and everything, right? But I would take the pictures out of the magazines and post them on my...
Hanging pictures on my wall.
Exactly. Day to day, Rap Attack, Mr. Magic, Molly Mall. We did that. We were about that life, right? And in my basement is where I had my turntables. So I had the walls, all these pictures on the walls. And then we started... So I formed a DJ crew. It was called Def Force 3.
Def?
Force 3.
3.
Yeah, so there was a big...
Before or after Def Jam?
I was just going to ask that.
It was... No. It was during Def Jam.
I love this guy,
right? Because that was the talk. Def was the word. Right? Def. Like every era has their words.
I'm so deaf, I can't hear you.
Right? So So we were the Def Force 3, and the Force came from another DJ crew from Flemo who were like older.
No.
Right? They were called Fresh Force.
Was it a homage or was it like we're taking your spot?
It was just like you're a kid and you want to emulate.
Okay.
So and those were the words. It was about
indirect.
force.
Yeah.
Force MDs and that
Force
was a
MDs,
thing.
Let Me Love You.
Right? That's a big tune.
Yo, do you know the doo-wop version where it's might have been Video Music Box? Let me love you.
Maybe. I think I might remember that. I think I might remember that.
Yo, it's so sick. I sampled it though, and I'll show
did
you
you?
the beat after. You're a fucking geek.
Okay.
But anyways, next, for some D's. Yeah. Anyways,
right. So it was just us being kids wanting to be like the people we look up to.
Yeah.
Right. So we took and we created Def Force 3. Like there was 3 of us, so it made perfect sense.
Fire.
Right. So
I love old rap names.
Oh yeah,
So
they were dope, right?
They are actually dope. Like people want to act like some of them are corny. Like they're pretty
some of the old school names are pretty dope. And
it's better than like 3 numbers and 2 acronyms.
Right? And they all had meanings back then too, right? It was important to develop a meaning.
So you have Def Force 3s and you have turntables set up in your
and then
basement.
then eventually you buy 1 turntable.
Sure.
Right? Then you get 2 turntables. Right.
At that period of time, is your house kind of a mecca for
absolutely.
that community?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And is this how
that's the picture I'm painting?
And that's how the Get Fresh crew.
Get Loose crew.
Get Loose crew.
Right.
Sorry, the Get Loose
so
crew.
then the Def Force 3. Like first, let me pay homage to Hutchie. So there was 3 Hutchies. Hutchie 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And they were Fresh Force. Wait, maybe I'm getting the names wrong. Anyway, Hutchie number 1, Al Capone. He is like, when they talk about godfathers when they talk about like Kool Herc and those guys in New York, like you talk about Ron Nelson, Al Capone, Hutchie was kind of Ron Nelson's backbone. Like, so he was the guy that was driving to Buffalo to pick up the artists that Ron was booking to perform at the concert hall.
Okay.
Right? And he's from Flemo. So early roots of hip hop, and then Howard Hughes, who also was a DJ in Chic Dynasty.
Yep.
Right. And Hutchie, I'm all over the place, but this is actually really interesting stuff. Okay.
Yep.
So bear with me. So Hutchie used to throw parties in his building's party room.
Yep.
Right. And
what was the building?
Yeah, they were hip hop parties.
But
so
what building?
It was in Flemo. I forget the number, but it was one of the Flemo buildings.
Yep.
And people would come from all over different areas because this was the hot hip hop party.
Yeah.
And that was my first introduction to MC Rumble, right? He shows up wearing this doctor's coat, right? You remember Mixmaster Ice? Or no, not Mixmaster Ice. DOC from UTFO.
Yep.
He used to wear a doctor's coat, right? He's the doc.
Yep.
DOC, doctor, whatever the fuck his name was. But Rumble kind of adopted that.
Really?
So his thing was to walk around in like a lab coat. So he had a white lab.
So this
it wasn't
was
a
your
doctor's
introduction
coat.
to MC Rumble.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was at the party wearing this lab coat. So I'm at the party with MC Shadow, right? So
Yep.
he was also a DJ in Def Force 3.
Yep.
But he also had really great skills of writing raps.
Yeah.
And he wrote this whole catalog of Roxanne disses. Because at a particular point
that
in
was the
hip hop,
thing happening.
Roxanne was
Yes,
the thing.
yep,
And there was
yep.
all these
And
Roxannes
everybody
and there's
was
all these
responding,
battles
yep.
and Sparky D and all this shit. So he wrote all these amazing Roxanne disses.
Shantae, just the real Roxanne.
Yeah.
He used to wake up every morning. Yeah, you know.
Right?
That was an era of
That was an
hip-hop,
era.
the Roxanne
right?
era,
So
yeah.
that's the era so do your dates research, right?
Yeah.
But that was my
That was the era
beginning
that you were
era
cutting
of
your
like
teeth, really.
starting a rap group.
Crazy.
Because Corey, his name was Corey.
See, and I love that you have that detail of the Roxanne Wars.
Yeah.
To be able to like, you know,
Draw
what I
that
mean? Yes,
timeline.
Draw the timeline exactly, and that's
How are these being
That's
recorded
perfect.
or put down to some sort of medium?
They weren't. They were just raps in a book, and he'd rap them on beat at the lunch table or something, or at our school dance that we would DJ.
What about things like pause tapes?
Right?
and-
Well, yeah, we did a lot of that. I recorded a lot of beats by pausing and.
okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's how you would have to.
Talk about this process because that
Record.
sounds like the worst thing. Like the beat, like you,
Very
the
common,
MC
yeah.
would have to learn.
It's not the MC. It's
No, but
if I have a record.
making a pause tape.
Yeah.
Like if something's a little bit off beat and throws off,
That's
you're not
and that's
redoing
fucked.
it.
You redo it
You redo it.
because you kind of know. You kind of know if you get it or not. Like there's a few trial and errors.
You're actually
It's like
gonna-
punching it. It's like if you're recording
See,
on Pro
as
Tools.
an MC,
Right?
if I was doing my own pause tape, I'd be like, if I accidentally left it for like a split bar of a loop or like cut a bar, like, fuck it, leave it. I would just learn how to you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, sometimes you would because
You
we
would,
wouldn't.
right?
We wouldn't
That's what I'm
necessarily
saying,
like we
for
weren't
the
cutting
MC.
records off of
That's
that.
what I'm saying.
They were just rapping, so you just have to follow the beat and
And the
make
MC
sure.
would have to learn where the discrepancies were in the pocket. Like,
Yeah,
after
unless you were
listening
good
to it
enough.
so many times.
Exactly, they
you
would
learn
know.
muscle
Exactly.
memory, like we were talking
Yep.
about off camera
So
earlier. You know what I
I've
mean?
done
But
interviews
just
across the country.
That's cool.
I've done interviews across the country with
Mm-hmm.
people of this generation, right? In this pause tape era, this expands to the mid '90s as well.
Right,
Yep.
yep.
People are still
Yep.
operating in the same sort
Even
of
like
manner.
professional people. Like I heard Nori talking.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
you know,
Um,
Q-tip.
But I hear the same story over and over and over again. But what becomes the more interesting aspect of it is the teacher. It seems like everyone. It's not like they
Yeah.
bought
Like there was a how-to
for,
guide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for like for breakdancing. I remember like the one of the stories that comes up a lot is the record breakdance.
Right.
There's a fold out
Yeah.
in the record that
Yeah, I
has like
remember
little
that.
moves.
Yeah.
And people utilize
Yeah,
that. Or
yeah.
things like subway art
Yeah.
becomes a real Bible for
Yeah.
graffiti artists.
Yeah.
But when it comes to pause tapes, it seems like everyone kind of just derives their own method
Yeah.
on their own without
Yeah.
no teacher, without no guidance.
Yeah.
But they all
Interesting.
come to the same conclusion that this is how you
Interesting.
have to do things.
Exactly.
What was your method? How did you learn this?
I think it was just again through listening to conversations, and so like again, I've got a lot of older peers who are already in the game,
Yeah.
either as artists or relevant DJs in the scene, and producers. So another one that I was going to say is like Howard Hughes, who produced Mishy's first records. He's a Flemo Park guy. So Flemo's always had a tie, and I'll get to your answer. It's just
Sure.
a
Yeah,
long,
yeah.
a
Loop it
roundabout
around.
way. So Flemo's always had this tie to the history of hip hop, because all the American acts that would come to perform would pass through Flemo or had some kind of connection, right? Because of Hutchie and his relationship in these big events with Ron Nelson, and artists like Mishy and Maestro, right? Like I've recorded for I went to the studio, I think, I keep saying for Maestro's first time. It may not be his first time, but
Did he press you on that?
did he on the answer?
Yeah.
No.
On being the first or not?
No.
Oh, okay, because
Did he say something to you?
no.
Oh.
I was asking because
Yeah.
we had spoke about it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of his
So I was
first
wondering
studio
if there was a
sessions, like
reason why you-
myself and S Blank and Hutchie brought him to it.
Yeah.
Because Hutchie and Farley were friends, right? So there's always been Farley's Maestro's manager at the time, and So there's always been this connection. And Hutchie also started record label. And anyway, I can go into great detail. But to get back to your question.
I've heard a lot of things about Hutchie.
Yeah, he's like the guy, which I may have forgot. You were asking me about the pause tapes.
Yeah.
I just realized, like, I needed to, like, extend the beat on this record. Like, how am I going to do that?
It's the same story everywhere.
Right?
Wow. So
So you
pause
get-
tapes became a thing just because everybody had the same idea because it was the only feasible
And I,
way.
yes, and I say record, though, but actually my first pause tape was
Interesting.
tape to tape. So I had,
That's generally.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I had the beat on a tape, and I would play it for the 4 bars or 8 bars, whatever I could get.
A dual cassette deck
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Right? And then pause, rewind it, and then just
Yeah,
just
because there's
try
only
unpause at the
there's
right
only
time.
maybe 2 bars of instrumental at the
Yeah.
end of a song.
Yeah, exactly. Or it
That's-
might have been the middle of a song.
Yeah,
it
that's
depends,
what
right?
you're looking
yeah,
for,
that's what
right?
you're looking for.
Yeah.
So you just run it back.
Wow.
You know when the beat's going to come in, so you just release the pause. And if you really are on point and got the rhythm, you'll get it.
Yeah.
And if you have a good tape deck that responds, too, right? That was key. But yeah, I made a lot of tape beats. What do you call them?
Pause tapes?
Pause. I didn't realize there was an actual.
Really?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
again,
no,
like,
it's a thing. It's a thing.
because I just did it and then moved on.
Yeah.
I've never been so much of a historian, I guess, or I've never researched and
Sure.
followed the culture because I was the culture.
Yeah.
So if someone, I am the culture. Like, that's just real talk.
I know it is, but that's a
Right?
cold bar right there. Like I'm gonna sample that from an interview and put that like at the front of a song.
Okay, as long as I get my royalties,
Well,
it's all good.
Send me your SoCan info. We'll get a pop.
That's what's up. So yeah, so I was the culture, so I didn't know that
It was
there
all
this-
natural.
Yeah,
It was instinctual.
and maybe even it had a name in New York. I didn't know what the name was. I just knew I had to like extend this beat.
I
That's
really
crazy.
don't think so. I think that
Right.
this is something that people identified after the
This
fact.
is what they're calling it.
And
Yeah.
everyone kind of then starts to have conversations with other people that they,
Right.
that they didn't grow up with.
Right.
And
Like,
starts
"Oh, yeah, I
to
did that too."
Yeah, I did that too. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Right?
In
Because
terms
if
of
there's
the
a will,
name
there's a
and the
way, right?
etymology, I
Well,
don't know. But
and even to what you're saying about that kind of natural instinctual way of this forming,
Right.
it's not so beautiful. So a correlation that I would make to even that like mindset of what you're saying is in Flemo when these parties started happening and the hip hop scene was really starting to flourish and like dudes like MC Rumble and you know like was it. How much of it do you say was direct influence? Like even the fact that you guys are doing it at the rec rooms and stuff. How much is this a direct influence or exactly that same type of mind state where it's like this is just the necessity and the availability? You know what I mean?
I think, well, let me just circle back to the Rumble story
Yeah.
because this might answer the question. So I'm at this party, right? And Corey's with me. So MC Shadow. Actually, his first name was White Shadow, which he took from, there used to be a basketball show
Yeah.
that had a white coach, and they called the show The White Shadow because he was the coach and all the players were black. So that's where his MC name came from, The White Shadow, because he's white. Okay? And the other person in my group, rest in peace, Len, Mixmaster Len. So he was the third member of the Def Force 3, and which later on became Get Loose Crew.
Yeah.
So Corey and I were at this party, and Rumble was rapping on the mic, right? And then Corey said, "Yo, I want to rap on the mic." So Corey grabs the mic, and Corey was actually very talented, right? Because he could DJ, and he could rap, and he could beatbox too.
Really?
Yeah. So he gets on the mic, and he starts rapping and doing some bars of written stuff, right? And then he said some line, and like I don't have the exact line, but it was something about like, and he was talking to Rumble, right? He's like, "Yeah, homeboy, I know you could rock, but listen up, y'all, it's a white beatbox," or something like that, right? So it flowed, right? Obviously. And then he started beatboxing, and the crowd was like, "Whoa!" Everybody's beating on the wall. It was like, "Oh shit, this guy's killing," because nobody expected that. It's like, yeah, you rap, okay, it's pretty good, but then you beatbox. That was like, whoa, because beatboxing was still
New.
it was kind of new, but like,
But so it's like so
No
there's,
one-
there's draws of influence from what's happening in New York at the
Absolutely.
same time, but it almost seems as if some of this is instinctual as well too.
yeah, absolutely,
what I mean?
absolutely, because you got to get your own identity, right?
Well, there's also a culture going on
There's
around
exactly-
you that you're
yes.
fitting into.
That-
It's
But the
not
thing is
just
this:
you.
that culture is so separated from Toronto, right? And
No.
it's
No,
it's
we have our own culture.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
But the similarities between the two at the same times, right? It's very interesting.
Which
Like,
is this Rumble story. So what
Yes.
happens now is the crowd loves what Corey did, right? And Rumble's like, yeah, you think you're bad? I'll battle you next week at the concert hall. And then we're like, okay, we'll see you there. And then Corey and I left, and Corey will tell the exact same story. We left, and we were both like, bro, where's the concert hall? Like, what is the concert hall?
There's no Google
Right?
Maps.
Whoa.
Because
whoa,
we have
whoa.
because we were younger than Rumble.
This is the start of the concert
Right?
hall like era.
So
though, or?
there was already a little bit of an error
An error
going
there?
on, but it was
Okay.
I was
Too
not of
young.
age yet. I
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
15 or something, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we were like, well, where's Con? And like, I don't know. We better find out.
No
right?
way.
So then, yeah. So then, I'm pretty sure that the next event at Concert Hall was Biz Markie and Roxanne Shante and somebody else, right? And I was like, I got to go to this. So I remember my
A Ron
parents-
Nelson show, I
It
assume.
was a Ron Nelson, yeah.
Yep.
He used to do these things called Monster Jam.
Yep.
And I think it was a Monster Jam. It maybe not. I don't know. But
Iconic poster art. Too.
yeah, absolutely.
That's an epic. That's an iconic concert.
Oh yeah,
That was your first hip hop
and
concert.
and Shantae
But those
was,
concerts are happening all the time.
Yeah.
Like
No, but-
Ron Nelson is bringing
yeah,
in
like
those
every
type of
month,
acts.
and yeah.
I know, but
But that was my
that
first
is
concert
one of
hall
those
experience.
ones where a lot of people from that era talk about that specific concert.
Because it was so huge. There's actually a clip on YouTube,
That was the first,
and it's been used
Wow.
in a documentary about Biz Markie, and it's been used on somebody's.
I know the clip you're talking
You know the
about.
clip I'm talking about?
Isn't he wearing like a white sweater or some shit? Or?
Biz Markie was wearing like a green outfit, all green.
Uh,
So anyway, this clip that I'm talking about, after that concert,
Yeah.
Len, Mixmaster Len, and I and a couple younger guys under us now,
Yeah.
who were like getting into the hip hop, were sitting on the table outside, like in the, I don't know what they call it, the foyer of Concert Hall, and Michelle Geister came up to us with her camera person and was like, so what'd you guys think of the concert? And she basically interviewed Len. I was super shy. I just kind of stayed back and didn't really say much, right? Smiled at the camera. But they interviewed Len. And Len's like, he goes, what did you think of the concert tonight? He's like, yeah, it was all right. It was adequate. Right? Yeah. And she's like, oh, okay. She goes, and we used to always tease Len about that because who uses the word adequate? Right? But Len, that's Len. Right? Like if you know Len, that's Len. Right? So
that's wild.
So then she's like, oh, well, who's your favorite act tonight? He's like, Biz Markie, by far, Biz Markie. And then they cut to a tape of him doing the Biz dance, right? But that clip of him saying that has been used multiple times. And it was used most recently when Biz passed away. Someone put a little short documentary together and threw it on YouTube. And that clip started it.
Wow.
Yeah. So even then, we didn't know that
You're in
those
this
words.
fucking clip,
Yeah.
bro. This
Right, we
one-
shouted out Flemingdon Park. She was like, "Oh, it must cost you guys a lot of. How are you going to get home? Because it's like 3, 4 in the morning, right?"
You're like, I live here.
And we're like, "Well, we'll just take a cab." And she's like, "Wow, you must have lots of money." I'm like, no, not expensive, $7. Because that's what But the joke is, we never paid. We would run the taxi. We'd be like, "Yeah, just drop us off Don Mills in Eglinton," and then we would just, okay, and we'd all run. And he'd be like, fuck you guys. And then I swear to God, this is true, that there was a point in time, if you got in a taxi after a party and you told them you were going to Flemington
Fleming?
Park, they would be like, no, I cannot go to Don Mills in Eglinton.
Wow.
Because, word got around. Like,
Well,
that's
it's
what
the same
found
way,
out.
like in New York, they wouldn't drive to
Yeah,
certain areas
so-
in Brooklyn or yeah.
But that's just life, right? In the hood, we're just kids. We don't have money. We can't afford a cab. And sometimes we just did things for fun because you're kids and you do dumb shit,
Exactly. Yep.
right?
Exactly. Yep.
Right?
Exactly. Yep.
Right?
Exactly. Yep.
Right?
Which
What's
is
crazy to me is how in that dialogue
Yeah.
from one area to the next, and especially
It's the same.
let's take New York City and the Bronx and Toronto, and there's a communication. So it's a game of telephone.
Yeah.
But how accurate that game of telephone is. If you look
Well,
at
because
the
it's the
hip-hop culture
music.
going on,
The
it's
music is
same
the
thing.
Bible. It's the platform. That's why.
But there's an attitude, there's a fashion sense, there's everything that goes along
That's
with
the
that.
other thing.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
visual
yeah.
aesthetics of it.
Well, it's all the.
Continue.
It's just the culture, man.
Yeah,
That's what it
exactly.
is.
It just spread
it's
the
the
culture
because
spread. That's what
because you
makes
know
it
why?
culture.
Because it's, and I've said this many times, and I'll say it again. Street culture will always dictate pop culture.
Yeah.
Right. And hip hop is from the streets. So those people that are in the streets are experiencing the same things, no matter where you go, whatever major city
It's
you go
almost
to.
instinctual.
It's yes. Right. So yes, we're gonna do the same things they're doing in New York.
It's a collective consciousness.
Yeah,
But
it's a
the-
collective
and the
consciousness,
crazy
right? And then
thing
you have the
is-
music on top of that, you
Here's
know,
an
telling you to
interesting
fight the
thought, though,
power
right?
and telling you different things.
Interesting thought. Before widespread media, you had almost the same type of thing happen in every city, but the cultures were different. They were different cultures. You know what I mean? Like people who are indulging in this in, let's say, like Memphis, you know what I mean, in late 1800s.
Right.
Or, you know, like blues music starts to get born in these places. But in other places, it's this kind of music.
Right,
but it's
right,
the
right.
same demographics of people creating these different
Right.
genres of music. You know what I mean? But it's weird how then when the communications become more prominent between
right.
different demographics and people and geographic regions, it becomes a common culture which everybody relates to and uses, but it you know what I mean? It's
I think we're all fighting for the same thing.
it is,
ultimately.
and the way that these things can relate, you know what I mean? Like I'm a white boy from Brantford, and hip hop speaks to me more than anything else speaks to me, and half of this shit doesn't even represent my struggle.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that speaks to the power of hip hop.
Right.
You know, and it's a pretty crazy thing. And how,
But you can relate because
Yes.
it's talking about a struggle or it's talking
well,
about
any struggle in life
Yeah.
is about struggle, and I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah.
any struggle is the same as any other. So to act like we are so self-righteous that somebody else's struggle relates to ours, it does not.
Right.
You know, but all you can do is appreciate parts of that struggle in which that do relate to you, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of hip hop. But so at this point, you're, when does the Get Loose crew really start to formulate?
So after you
And
know,
when, and I gotta ask this separately,
Yeah.
just because it's the homie. But
yeah,
when did you meet Carlito?
during the Get Loose crew. Actually,
he was
no,
brought in at last minute. Was he?
he was
not?
he was
Yes.
brought in,
Okay,
right? But
yeah.
I knew Carlito from high school, from the local high school.
Okay.
I think that was my first introduction to Carlito, was
Shout
at
out
the
to
high
Carlito.
school. But Carlito was already working on music with other people,
Yeah.
right?
And the Simply Majestic stuff came later,
The
right?
Simply Majestic. He worked with Ivan Berry as well.
Oh, he had already been working
I
with
don't-
these guys.
No, I think the first work he did was with Simply Majestic.
Okay, really?
Like he
Okay,
did
yeah.
his own thing, and then
Yeah.
was introduced to Anthony Bond, and he did the record with Anthony
Okay.
with the Simply Majestic, right? Yeah, and we've gone on little tours together. Oh yeah,
That's cool.
oh yeah, we got a lot of good stories.
I
He
bet.
reminded me of some the last time we were at the cottage together. It was pretty hysterical.
The fact that you said at the cottage together is a
Yeah.
beautiful thing, because I was gonna say every
Yeah.
time I see you two in a room together,
Yeah.
there's that like just genuine like
love and just
love of
yeah.
lifetime love.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's a cool thing, and he's honestly, this is a complete side note of
Yeah.
what we're talking about,
Yeah.
but he's probably one of my favorite people you've introduced me to.
Nice. Yeah, well,
I
he's
like him.
super cool. He's humble.
Yeah,
He's a good guy.
very, very real, down to earth guy, and he
Yeah,
speaks his fucking mind. And
Yeah,
I respect
which I
that in
love.
anybody. Yeah,
And he knows hip hop too.
yeah, yeah.
Right? So
Oh
he's-
yeah, he'll shit.
He's
yeah,
a good
yeah.
interview. You'll get some good stuff out of him.
Yeah, I've talked to him twice, and
Right.
I'm gonna bring him back on this.
Absolutely.
He's one of those people that need to be spoken to.
So there you go. So the Get Loose crew kind of morphed from Def Force 3 into the Get Loose crew.
Yeah.
So it was 2 DJs and 1 MC. And who else did that? Dougie Fresh,
Yep.
right? So we were kind of like copying Dougie Fresh and the Get Fresh crew.
Ah.
But now we're the
And
Get
I
Loose
accidentally
crew.
said the Get Fresh crew earlier.
Right?
so-
Yeah, exactly, right? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's kind of funny.
Yo.
So that's where Get Loose crew came from. And again, my house was like, I had the turntables, we were DJing, I had records, and so we set up shop. Then I started recording,
Yo.
and then we just said, let's make a record, and we did, right? And apparently, the Get Loose crew record is credited with the first Canadian rap record to gain international sales.
Woo.
Which is pretty big. I never received an award or any money for it,
Ah.
but it's all good. we just did it, right? We didn't know
Yep.
what we were doing. And then after that, then then Maestro and Mishi came out with their records and Beat Factory
And one thing I want to say about the Get Fresh crew, right?
yeah,
Because you were producing.
Get Loose crew.
See? Well, that's what I'm talking about. The mimic, but I like at
Yeah.
least that how you made that correlation so
Yeah.
I don't just sound like an asshole. Because, I mean, let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
Same era.
Yep.
But
Exactly.
The Get Loose crew.
Yeah.
Because you're handling production on there.
Yeah, I was doing production. I was managing.
You're basically doing
Recording,
the
I
same
was-
thing you did following the rest of your career. for
Yeah, pretty
everybody
much.
else.
I was just like the
That was
guy who got
birthed
it done.
In that, the guy
In
who
that-
got it done. Well
yeah,
put, yeah.
Yeah. I
Keep
was
it
the
pro.
guy who got stuff done,
Keep it pro.
right? And mainly because, I had the means, but I'm a vision. I don't want to call myself a visionary, but I'm a creative guy,
Yeah.
right? So being a creative, you look at the big picture of things. So if I would see different talents and be like, yeah, let's go record something. Let's do something. Let's meet this guy, right? So, that's where all that came in, right? And then being friends with Maestro and doing stuff with him.
Which, I want to get to that.
Yeah.
But I have to ask you this.
Yeah.
What were you using to produce when you did the Get Fresh
I can't
crew out?
believe you Get Loose. Can't believe you missed the Get Loose crew story. That's okay.
Get Loose.
Yeah.
I'll
Sorry,
read
what was the
Now,
question?
now just
I'll
in
read
vain,
this
I'm
out.
going to call it Get Fresh.
I know, right? For the rest of the interview.
Okay, but
That's okay.
No, but what were you using to produce?
What was I using
Yeah.
to do that record? I think it was an Sonic EPS 16 Plus
Wow.
and some other stuff. So S Blank also helped with some production, and he had an Atari computer. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, with
Wow.
a program, and you could do what would be known as multi-track
No way.
and lay out beats. Yeah. So it was a combination of that stuff,
Wow.
right?
And it's
Like some of the beats he would make the actual beats
Yeah.
on his Atari computer. Some of them, right? And then I would add music. It was just a joint effort. It was a
It's so
right?
interesting.
Because he had some gear, I had some gear. It was a
Yeah.
community effort, really,
Yep.
between S Blank and myself.
What are you recording it to?
We were recording, if not to the Atari, to the Get Loose crew record. Oh, you know what? The
Like
Get Loose
reels?
the Get Loose crew record, after we had the production and the songs were written, then we went and did our demos, which
Yeah.
we probably recorded to a 4-track cassette
Okay.
recorder. We went to a studio. We found some random studio somewhere. I think it was Deep Scarborough, some guy's basement.
Oh, really?
I forget his name. MC Shadow will give you all the details. He remembers all that shit. But we went there, we booked the studio time and recorded the record, sent it off to Sinram, I think, we sent it to Lacquer Channel for mastering. So that was the beginning of my relationship with Phil Dimitro, who's the mastering engineer in Toronto. He's
I've
mastered
heard that name.
so many records.
And where was the what was the name of the mastering studio?
Lacquer Channel.
That,
Like
and
they,
that's
like
where you-
he's record, like bands from New York send their stuff to Lacquer Channel to get mastered.
Yeah.
And Phil worked on a lot of records, and but he was coming up. He was the underling.
Yeah.
So that I forget the top guy, right? But Phil was coming up. He was the underling. So he started. So he would get, you do this rap stuff. So he became a guy to master a lot of rap records.
Oh.
Right? And I was
Wow,
if
wow.
not the first, one of the first ones that he mastered.
Wow.
Which was the Get Loose crew.
And he became kind of the go-to guy for rap because he knew how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, first time I ever went to a recording studio, I went to one and I paid tons of money, and it was
Yeah.
one that recorded a bunch of great rap records.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, rock records.
Yeah.
And my song came back sounding like shit.
Yeah.
And that's when
That's-
I stopped deciding to pay for studios,
Yeah.
and I just solely utilized my homies who had
Well, and
mics
see,
at home.
that's a problem that we had back in the days
Yeah.
because nobody knew how to record rap.
Yep.
That's why there was always this stigma of oh yeah, that's Canadian. That's Canadian.
Because the quality
Because
was
the quality
off,
was
because there wasn't
way
that
different from
mentorship.
American hip hop.
That's where the
because a number of things. We didn't have the engineers that understood it
Yep.
and knew how to mix it, right? We didn't have the proper electronics to create the beats and the right capacitors and equipment that they were using in New York to give it that sound.
Yep.
Right? We were trying to make knockoff hip-hop music with bad drums and badly EQ'd and engineers that didn't know rap.
Yep.
So they're not going to mix it the way it needed to be mixed. And that was our first experience. We kept telling the engineer we went to for the Get Loose Crew record, he's like, oh, more bass, turn up the bass. And then eventually, in hindsight, we told him to add too much bass. And when we sent the record to Sinram to get the lacquer master, it blew the stamp, is what we were told, because of the bass in it and the waveform. I don't know what exactly happened, but the story we were told is that it blew the stamp and they had to do a second one, and they were more prepared for the quality of stuff we were giving them. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. I didn't know a lot back then. We were just like, okay. Right? And we didn't have to pay for the blown stamp.
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
just told, no, there's a delay, and this is why.
Wow.
So then we got our lacquer masters, and then we sent it to, or we got our vinyl masters, and then I forget the whole process.
Who
to be
owns the
honest.
masters?
Corey and myself. Probably more Corey, because he was more on.
Has his hands on them physically?
The actual? No, I have them.
Oh, okay.
I have the master
I mean, at
tape.
the end of the day, owning a Masters
Yeah.
really comes down to who has them in there.
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
You know,
yeah, but
you
we
can
weren't
put a
into it.
stamp
We didn't
on
know
it.
anything
You
about
can put a
all of that.
stamp on whatever you want.
And you know
but
what?
whoever's hands are on the Masters.
I
own
gave
the
credits.
Masters.
Like on the back of the records, a big thing was to do your shout outs and
Yeah.
to shout people out. So we each took a little section and shouted out certain people, right? And we wrote our writers' credits. I even gave the other guys in the group production credits on songs they didn't produce.
Really?
Just because I thought that
Just to help
you were
balance
supposed to
it.
do, and to help balance it out, and to see their name on things.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but in hindsight, I wouldn't have gave anybody any credit.
Yeah,
that
I don't give nobody
they didn't
credit they
do
don't
work.
deserve. Fuck no.
But again, we were kids and we were family, and we
Yeah.
were just like, let's do this. We want our record to look like everybody else's record.
Yeah.
And it's got like 4 or 5 different writers' names. So we got to add everybody, not just me and Stanley, right? So
So once you end up getting that in your hand, what do you
Yeah.
end up doing with it? I assume you
sent it to
produce
be
the
shipped
record
it.
so you
Distribute
can.
it.
well, we actually got distribution.
And that's how you get
And then
international
that's
sales.
yeah. So that's
Was that
yeah. I
already
missed that
planned
whole I missed that whole
before-
part of the story. So the reason we made the record is because we got a distribution deal
Okay.
off
Before
of
making
off
it.
of a demo or something.
Okay,
Right?
okay.
Or maybe that particular record, but it wasn't in record format yet.
Yep.
But we met this guy, Raul, who actually worked. He was Raul James. He was actually a DJ at Star Sound, too. Star Sound was a record store where we would go and get hip-hop records,
Yep.
right? On Yonge Street. And maybe that's where we met him. Record shopping one day, and we were told him we were in a group, and we got a record. Anyway, he brought it to Elektra, which I think is now Capitol. I could be wrong on that. Corey would know. Anyway, he brought it to Elektra, who gave us distribution, worldwide distribution. So we're like, okay, fuck
Wow.
yeah. So then we made the record, and it was my label, East Park Productions.
And I know you spoke about this in the Friday interview,
Yeah.
which some of the stuff earlier, but I didn't. I want
That's
to make
okay.
sure we let you tell it in its order. But the East Park Pro, that's where it was all born.
That's where it was born, in the East, because, again, like growing up as kids, we want to emulate what was going on in New York.
Yeah, and,
Right?
and
Like-
hold on, let me just explain for Alex because I don't think he is
Right.
familiar. But East Park Pro then goes on to become a man. Yeah, at a certain point you developed a man.
Yeah, it's like it's a production company. I
It's
manage
it's
artists.
a little bit of everything.
Everything I did.
You did.
I
Big
kept
Ticket
under that
through it.
umbrella. Yeah.
Big Ticket, the same thing we were telling about earlier. So East Park Pro is like one of those things that I
Yeah.
mean, even right now, one of your biggest slogans is.
Right? Keep it pro. Right? Productive, professional, and proactive.
So it's important to get to that point of where the East Park Pro is
Right?
born
So, yeah. So, Flemingdon Park was also known as East
Yeah.
Park because it's in the East and
Yeah.
it's not Regent Park.
Yo, can
Right?
I just ask you something super random about Flemo,
Yeah.
though?
Yeah.
Like, not hip-hop related? What are the trails like out there?
There's some trails. Yeah, absolutely. There's good trails. Great
They're
trails.
fire trails, right?
Yeah.
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 Well, I've watched a lot of documentaries about the development of Flemingdon Park and how it became what it became and certain
Right.
things like that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, like,
Right.
I don't know the hip hop history I uncovered through talking to people
Right.
who watched it. But kind of how we were talking 5 Points earlier, and you bought
Yeah.
something, you're like, oh, it was a completely,
Yeah.
basically whitewashed version of what I was expecting. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, I've seen documentaries about Flemingdon Park, but they're whitewashed versions of them. So to understand how the actual urban culture is born there is interesting.
Right.
But I've never been.
Well, that's just immigration.
But I had to ask
That's
about-
immigration.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
and that's exactly what
the
it was.
government
It was-
lets in
Yep.
certain
In
immigrants from certain
yep.
regions.
Exactly what
right?
it was. Yeah,
And then say, go here.
exactly.
Right? So a lot of Jamaican and West Indian,
And yep,
right?
exactly what you're saying is exactly
Yeah. Did they cover that in the documentary?
Exactly. That's,
Oh, yeah?
that's the history. Yeah.
They should have interviewed me.
Yeah, they should have really. But I just asked that to ask the
Yeah.
trails because they
So-
look like a beautiful area.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
the
Well,
Don
Science
River
Center's
and
right
shit.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, the valley, the Don Valley.
Yeah, the Don
That's
Valley
great.
is beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Lots to do around there. But back to, so what was the question
So,
we were at before
Hold
that?
on. You end up getting this internationally distributed record.
Yeah.
Over the years,
Mm-hmm.
what have you seen has come from that? Have you seen people in Germany that have picked up your record and have got back to
Absolutely.
you and been like, "Hey, I got this shit."
Yeah,
when I
absolutely.
was
I've had
11 years
requests.
old?"
Can I get a copy? Right?
Do you know how much
I've
a
seen
copy
it
that sells for
like
right now?
$89. I've
Yeah.
seen it as
On
high as
Discogs?
109. Yeah, yeah.
And
So-
what is it? It's a 12-inch.
It's a it's a
how many
12-inch.
cuts?
It's an EP. So
Okay.
there's 4 songs, but they
Two on
I
each
think
side?
I think
or
2 on each side.
instrumentals
Plus,
on
I think
each side?
3 of them have
Hold on.
instrumentals.
Hey, guys.
Okay.
At this time, what else is going on in the Toronto hip hop scene?
So you're talking like what era are we still talking about?
We're talking about
Like
the
that Bismarcky
that area,
era.
the Bismarcky up into the Get Loose Crew
Get Loose
area,
Crew?
era.
Yeah. So, well, what
Because you
was
guys are the first guys to gain international sales, but what else? I mean,
yeah, but not international recognition. I think we did 2 shows together as a group.
that's it.
Yep.
Really? Wow.
And Carlito was part of that.
Yep.
So
And where were
Carlito came in towards the end of the recording of the songs.
Yeah.
So he's actually only on one song, which was the lead song called "Wannabe." We used I think it was a Bee Gees sample.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, you'll recognize it when you hear the song. So Carlito came in. We finished the record. We had like a record release party. We got picked up in a limo.
Wow.
We went in the limo. Oh, yeah, we were balling. And then we did one more show, and that was the end of the group.
Really?
Yeah. I think we all were going in different directions, and then there was some inner turmoil, and then I was working with other Flemo acts, recording them.
And
And
so
I don't want to
was it-
sell Flemo short. Let's just make that clear, because in my mind, Flemo's the birthplace of hip-hop in Toronto.
Yeah. Well, a
right?
lot of people say that, which is
And
why I really want to get.
Also,
you
there was a number of like hot entertainers from Flemo, right? And Cardi was even from Flemo, and Chaos too.
Cardi's from Flemo.
Yeah, he spent time. He lived in Flemo, but he wasn't like
That
at the time
era.
he was there.
Yeah,
it
it was
wasn't
later.
like I don't know. It's just obviously in every neighborhood there's different crowds. Same with Chaos. Chaos claimed Flemo in an interview one time.
Really?
Yo, the man them got mad.
Really?
Yeah, because you know what it's like in the hood when it's like when you want to be something and then you see other people doing it, and you're like, oh, it's also the competitiveness of the music. It's like, oh,
Yep.
that guy sucks. I'm better than them, right? So Chaos was different. He came out with his guitar and he was singing. And
What about when Maestro said, "Let's take it back to
88 Don Mills in Eglinton making beats with S and Gel in them.
Flemingdon, Don
Flemingdon
Mills,
Park.
and Eglinton"?
Yeah, making beats with S and Gel in them,
Yeah.
right? Because he was
Remember when
making
you labels wasn't feeling me?
Yeah,
Next year changed the
right. So
security.
before his record came out, we did a lot of like pre-production, and we recorded other songs with him and for him.
Yep.
Right. So he's saying like, yeah, but it was after that, and it was the Backbone record that broke him, and that was produced by Double Soul.
Yep.
Anyway, what was I saying about?
The neighborhoods, how it changes from era to era.
I don't know where I was going. What was I saying?
The question
That's
was
the
about
old
the
age.
hip hop scene in Toronto at that period. of
Yeah.
time.
So yeah, and basically, so the demise of the Get Loose crew, right? I was recording other guys. So basically, I was also trying to like give Flemo its props because Flemo, not just being a birthplace, like we've birthed a lot of greatness too.
Yeah.
Even like in athletes and everything, right?
And where was Ron Nelson from?
So Ron, actually, I don't know that. I think Ron's a West End guy.
Okay.
Right? But he had that Flemo connection because of Hutchie.
Yeah.
Right?
And Hutchie was a
and
Flemo
Howard
guy.
Hughes and
Howard Hughes,
other acts.
Howard Hughes is a Flemo guy too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? And then my boy Stanley S. Blank that
Yep.
I'm referring to, he actually performed at one of the Monster Jams and was supposed to battle Biz Markie.
Wow.
Him and Mighty Mouth Rock. So there was this beatbox duo, Kid Icy Beats and Mighty Mouth Rock. I forget what they were called like as a duo, but those were their individual names, and they were both beatboxers, and they had some sick beatbox routines. Sorry, I'm just thinking about Beatbox Roger. He was a different beatbox. So, but this was the culture. Like we had these things. It's like areas had their. Well, he's the good beatbox from Flemo. He's the beatbox from this end.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the dope MC.
And was it through the Ron Nelson jams though that Toronto artists really first started to get their platform?
Yeah, get that opportunity, and that's what I was going to say. Is that S. Blank, because he was such a good beatboxer as well.
Yeah.
And he was singing and rapping long before Drake, right? And he could do patois. He was really dope. Anyway, I digress. But S. Blank was supposed to battle Biz Markie at the concert hall at one of the Monster Jams with, I think it was Mighty Mouth Rock. I can't remember why the two of them were put to face Biz. I guess because Biz is he was like the beatbox.
He was the guy.
Like
yeah.
he was the guy, right? Not even Dougie Fresh. Like Biz Markie was the guy. And then there was like a competition or something because I remember there being a party in Flemo. It was kind of like, not a talent show, but it was like a preliminary rounds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
Really?
even Maestro was involved in that as
No
Melody MC.
Melody MC.
He had the battle. He
I
battled.
can't wait to interview my show.
He battled Cash Money's MC. So DJ Cash Money, a lot of people credit him with inventing the Transformer scratch.
Oh, he's the one with Jazzy Jeff that there's the...
the debate.
Yeah, the debate
beef,
about,
right?
yeah.
And they're both from
DJ
Philly.
Cash Money, yeah. Okay.
Right? And I remember Howard Hughes coming back from Philly with a cassette of Cash Money because he was with Cash Money.
Yep.
And Cash Money, when he came to Toronto, he stayed at Howard Hughes' basement.
Really?
Yeah, so there's always that connection to like the core of hip hop.
Yeah.
In some
Always,
level.
yeah.
Right? Always. Right?
Wow.
So that's why East Park and East Park Pro, there'll always be the park because that's my representation
Seeing
of
you tied
Flemo.
it back to the conversation before the camera.
Exactly.
died.
I get there eventually.
Yeah.
Right?
That's perfect.
So East Park Pro, it was East, EAST,
Yep.
representing
And was
East Park because we used to call Flemo East Park.
Yeah.
So I took the East Park and then added the production because I was producing records. So East Park Productions, EPP, was the record label that I created and put out the record.
And then you cut the productions to Pro.
And then, and then eventually shut it down. I dropped the T from East and just made it Entertainment and Sound. Because again, this is like a decade, a decade later now, where I'm
rebranding though,
rebranding and growing and learning new things. Right. So I was focused more on like production and doing things in the entertainment field and management and different things.
And this is the next thing we're basically going to get to be honest. But I just wanted to actually ask this while we're still kind of in this early pocket. Is Maestro a Flemo dude?
No.
He's Scarborough dude, right?
Yeah, Scarborough.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he was spending time in Flemo.
Yeah, because he was coming over to my place
rap.
or S. Blank's place to do some recording.
Okay.
Right? So that's his Flemo connection. And then he had a song, I can't remember the song, but his first video he shot at Lamoureux, which is a school in Scarborough that he went to.
Yeah.
And then I remember there's a legendary, well, I say legendary because it's legendary to me, picture of me, S. Blank, and Maestro at that video shoot.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty dope. I was wearing, I think I had like a gold chain and an African necklace, like an African medallion, because those were big back in the day,
Zulu
right?
Nation,
the Zulu Nation, the wooden
I'd love
beads.
to see a young Chris in Trump jewels.
Oh man, you'd get some jokes for sure.
Zulu Nation used to have membership forms that you could
Right.
sign. That you could sign up, and they would be distributed internationally, but
Yeah.
specifically in Canada. Did you end up
I
signing
never,
up officially
I never
and-
officially signed up.
Okay.
No, this was
Do you know
all
how you
right.
got your hands on one of the African medallions?
I think it was either when I was in New York, just buying it off like a
Okay.
street vendor, or when I say New York, I mean New York City,
Sure.
or I went to Buffalo.
Okay.
And then at some point they made them across the border, and you could buy them in the flea market.
Gotcha.
And it was all kind of bootleg shit, not official Zulu
Sure.
Nation. It was just like the fight the power thing. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Africa, motherland, you know.
Before we progress, I have one more
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
How unified were the other elements within Toronto at that period of time? So when I talk to people, say in Saskatoon,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, you have an active and vibrant graffiti scene happening
Mm-hmm.
in the late '80s, even in the early '80s, but that's quite separate from what's going on in the parks and battling and specifically like DJing at house parties. They kind of maybe know of each other, but they're not necessarily running in the same cliques. It's maybe
Yeah, no,
a
we had
little
all
bit
of
a
that.
separate
All the elements
community.
were joined. All
It
the
was
elements
all
were joined.
joined.
Yeah, man. Like Flemingdon, we had the dance crews, we had the DJ crews, we had the MCs, we had the beatboxers, we had the graffiti artists. We had all of that shit, and we exploited all of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of it was just, again, emulating. Like in New York, there was the Roxy, right?
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
a famous club. So in Flemo, this abandoned party room in one of the buildings where one of our boys' mother was like the super, we turned it into like this underground party room and we called it the Loxy, right? So while we were emulating, we were also just genuinely creating our own vibe. And to answer your question, all of those elements
Has
were
Maestro been to the
there,
Loxy?
right? All of those elements were
Yeah,
there.
has Maestro been to the Loxy?
Maestro doesn't know about the Loxy. That was before his time,
Oh, damn. that's real history there, eh?
right? But yeah, we did all kind of things like that, right? So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of fun now talking about these things because again, you appreciate it later and realize like
There was something being
there was
built
something being built and it is actual like real life history,
there. Yeah.
right?
It's real history.
And what I
actually,
said,
yes,
what
yeah.
I said off air was that something like this, like as great as it is, me telling my stories, there are so many stories that are just like mine.
That's what I want.
You know what I mean?
That's what I want to hear.
But you're never gonna get every story from
No,
everybody.
You never will.
Right?
But
So
all you can do is get
it's unfortunate.
first-hand accountability of
Right.
people who can witness it through their own eyes.
Right? Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people who may have been the building structures or blocks to some of these things either don't want to speak of it or some of them, rest in peace, aren't even here anymore. Right?
Yeah, that too.
And
Absolutely.
so all you can do is get really firsthand
Mm-hmm.
accountability of these situations and take them as they are, right? And that's literally the premise of starting the show, is to uncover Toronto hip-hop history one interview at a time by talking about introductory points. What inspired you? What was happening at the time, right? And that's
Hopefully,
exactly
eventually
it.
for you, it'll get easier because people will see this and be like, "Yo, I got a story to tell."
I think at a certain point that's what
Like that's
will
what I would
happen.
like to see, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not all. Even though like I have my love and beliefs in and about Flemo, like it's not all about Flemo. There's other stories, and
Yeah.
Jungle's got stories, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean. But what I love about those days is like we all got together.
Yeah.
Like we would go to the different hoods, and it was all good. You
Well-
could be friends with a King Lou, but also be competitive with a King Lou or
Yeah.
something.
Well, and the
Right?
thing I wanted to ask you too, right, is because, see, with you, for me, it was this, is that I know, for one, me and you can talk again. You know what I mean? It's not, you know, if we don't cover everything in one interview, we'll cover it one day.
Some
You know what I
point.
mean?
Yeah.
But Flemo, to me, is one of those pockets that only certain people understand. But a lot of the people that I talk to who are very integral or witnessed the early Toronto hip-hop scene, all fingers point back at Flemo.
That's good to hear, man.
Right, and that's why I really wanted to kind of encompass that. Whether some of the details to some may be very
Yeah.
minuscule in like, whoa, like this is super early, but it helps paint that picture when the overall canvas is for all these interviews to paint the overall picture,
Right.
right? And these details, though they may go completely over my heads, over others' heads, I think it's important for these people to get their flowers and their credit and where it's due in the
For
history,
sure.
right?
Yeah. We used to have, in the community center and resource center particularly, I think it it developed a lot of character in the people that were part of this culture.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like those days may be gone, but they're new days. Like the new generation is creating their own story.
Yeah.
Right? But for me, like I remember we used to have a music night at the Resource Center. So myself, Greg G, or Howard Hughes, like we bring turntables, set it up in the kitchen, and there was this big open space at the top of the library, and we would just play music, and it was like our own little party. And we were kids, but we had this big dance floor, and
That's so
we could break dance and all kind of things. I remember doing an interview after the Get Loose Crew record came out for this CBC show called Switchback. It was
CBC again.
Yeah, again, right?
Back,
I know.
right?
The universe.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so just those things, like, again, we were just kids, and basically these were the programs, right?
Yeah.
We had a night where we would watch all these, like, kung fu movies, like movie night, and it was always like, let's watch some Wu-Tang shit, watch the kung fu movies. And the joke is, I was never really into those movies. Yeah. I hated it. I was more like,
I hate those movies too.
Yeah, it just wasn't doing it for me. I wanted to watch
I love Wu-Tang, but
I want to watch a documentary about something. I want to see behind the scenes, or I want to watch a good drama. But
like to learn.
I wasn't into the kung fu movies.
Yeah.
So instead, I was like making beats and, you know what I'm saying, and DJing. So while the other men then were like, exactly. Chasing girls is very important.
Everybody leaves that part out, but that eats up the most time.
That's the reason I got out of playing hockey.
Really?
Yeah. Soccer I gave up because it was boring. Or not boring.
You gave up
it's
hockey because
the soccer,
girls?
Kinda. Girls in music. I discovered girls in music.
Yeah.
And then that became what took my time.
Wow.
Music more than girls. The girls came with the music.
What position did you play in hockey?
I was a goalie. And
No
I was
way.
I was super good.
You were good?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I coached for a couple of years too. After,
Really?
Yeah, after
Interesting.
I went back and I coached. I coached the first place team championship.
No way.
Fuck yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Actually, it's
a lot you don't know about Chris Jackson.
Beyond being my mentor and being the CBC guy and being the Get,
Loose.
Just out of respect, we're going to say it properly. Because put some respect on this guy's name. The Get Loose crew.
Hey.
But the Get Fresh crew.
Yeah.
You coach hockey and were a...
yeah, and I was a hip-hop guy.
But not only... interesting. See, these are the parts of people that are interesting to learn.
Well, they're interesting to learn because it's real.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And we're in an era now, and don't get me wrong, entertainment has always been entertainment.
Yes.
Right? And artists from time, they're artists. So they're a little different from regular people. But they also have to present an image.
People too.
You also have to present an image. Right? But we're in an era now where that's all we do is present an image to people. And nobody's real.
Yeah.
So one reason I like
feel that.
discussing these things and having these conversations is that I can be real. I don't give a fuck. I'm a grown-ass man.
Yeah.
Right? So I can be real, and hopefully that encourages other people to be like, fuck, maybe I should just be real.
Do you know what's hard in today's world? I think I'm very real, but I have to play into certain parts of my realism that are entertaining.
But it's not just about entertaining. It's just being real in a good way.
Being an entertainer is about
being entertaining, you have to be entertaining.
So
absolutely,
you can't it's not like, well, today I decided to read.
However, maybe I don't agree with what I just said. I believe that if you have it, you have it, and you don't have to be. You just are. Right?
Yeah, but even the greatest entertainers, artists, and performers of all kind in the world become a slave to their art to a degree.
Yeah, but that's not what we were talking about.
Well, it doesn't mean you're not living it to be it, but at a certain point, once there's an expectation or a standard put behind it, you have to live up to it.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
You know what I mean?
I just watched an Elvis documentary last night.
Yeah. I'm
kind of pissed off that I watched the whole thing because it's not what I thought it was going to be, because the title was like Elvis's demented past or some shit like that.
And it's like, Elvis was a hero to most, but he never meant shit to me because he's straight up racist. The sucker was simple and plain, motherfucking and John Wayne. Because I'm black and I'm proud.
Right?
I'm ready and I'm hyped and I'm amped. Most of my heroes don't appear on those stamps. Oh, come on.
Right?
That's like the coldest 8 bars in rap history.
Right? But that's a whole... education and movement for people.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It
To some, it's just
educated me.
yeah. To some, it's just rap lyrics, and to others, it's like that's
no.
gospel.
The
man.
thing that do you know why that's so beautiful is because that's not just rap lyrics to anybody. Because the person that could belittle rap to that's just rap lyrics is deeply offended white man at that fucking line. Hey, you hear what he shot about Elvis? Whoa, John Wayne.
Right?
You know what I mean? That affects everybody. The black community can laugh at that. People like me in the white community can laugh at that and be like, that's fucking amazing. And it's real. But you're going to upset the people you want to upset. It draws that line so symmetrically perfect between kind of dividing, but it's a division that's important as to where a lot of times the division between people are people that are actually of the same struggle. That's a poison. When you can divide a line between a certain demographic of people who are so polar opposite that it makes it almost appear foolish and silly, that's power. You know what I mean? And that's what Chuck D, Public Enemy, especially in those early, were so good at. And that's what good political music will do to you too, right? Certain KRS-One records, and as you progress, certain Dead Prez records. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like that's
Well, they had an ability and a way of doing it without really like preaching at you.
That's the thing.
They're just talking, telling a story without like.
When it comes off preachy is when it becomes
it's like,
whack.
Fuck, it becomes right.
And is that the point? You know, at what point did that happen in hip hop? Is that like X Clan?
I think X Clan's dope.
I
was
think
gonna
X
bring
Clan is super dope.
I think X Clan is dope too. But at what point?
But
did it become
super
too
preachy. No,
I don't think it
X-Clan
did.
is very preachy.
But
But
then what happened to that?
What happened is the industry, the powers that be.
So you're a powers that be person.
Absolutely.
But if
every
if the streets always dictate the culture, then how could the industry dictate the culture?
Okay, let me tell you how. Because the industry is a corporation, and when you have a corporation, you have people up here that run it. No matter what happens down here, no matter what you see, no matter what you think,
the streets will always
there are people up here,
regardless. Though,
right? And what's pop culture right now? It's
It
jewelries, it's strip clubs, it's strip clubs, it's bitches.
It's same shit it's been since '98.
Right? But where did that come from?
I think as long as it's authentic, then it gets the pass.
Well,
it can be as preachy as possible.
That's not what we're.
If we go to
a cultural pass.
If we go to Grandmaster Kaz,
a cultural pass to the point where we can,
raps,
as a culture,
are you
say
talking
it's
about
dope.
driving a better car than you, though?
No. I think the point is being lost in the sauce because what you asked me is at what point, and I'm saying that there's this. You're saying if street culture dictates pop culture, then how did it get reversed? And I'm saying it didn't get reversed. It's just that the people at the top of this corporation have now decided, hey,
channel in on these points.
This is the new street culture. Right? That we're going to take and exploit and change things because we can't have, and I'm going to be blunt, we can't have a generation of educated niggers running around here fighting the power. That's not good.
I believe that.
Right? That is not good.
I'll tell you
and it wasn't until the summer of 2020 that the world realized, fuck, you know what? There really is a problem. There's a lot of injustice happening here. And now the people that were controlling this for so long have a much larger uprising that are forcing this old way of thinking and this old corporation out because there's a new way of doing things. There's a new way of thinking, right? And it's guys like me that are leading that change. Right? And no one can debate me. And the reason I'm leading that change is because I lived through all of this bullshit. I navigated it. And I'm now in a position within that corporate structure to say, nope, enough is enough. Look, CBC Music now has a radio show that plays black music. Listen to me. There is now, listen to me, CBC, okay, the country's national broadcaster, its oldest corporation, now has a black music show that plays exclusively black music 5 nights a week. That's huge. And you know why that happens? Because there's people like myself that are in positions that are saying, It's enough. We need to change this shit. And I don't want to make it all about race because it's not. It's about it's about an old corporate structure
to a degree
that needs to change.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm a bit
Well,
confused.
it is because hip hop is a black music.
Well, exactly. And the thing is, it doesn't mean because hip hop's black music that white people can't love it. That's the
absolutely.
separation.
I don't think anybody's saying that.
Exactly, but that's the point. But you have people that feel that way. That's where this degree of separation happens.
You have a small few. You have a small.
But you have
a small
niches
percentage of
everything.
Canadians, right? Also, who think that a truck convoy to Ottawa is going to save the what's the word I'm looking for? Save the liberalism of diversity.
But before we wrap it up,
part 2, we have to start on time before we smoke and drink and just do the interview so we can focus.
Yeah, but I can't smoke in here.
Right.
You're
so you just do the interview. No, I said before I don't have to smoke or drink. I'm just saying if we want to do the interview, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Right? And just
I think
forget the hour it was great talking with you guys, don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining about anything at all. I'm just saying I'm happy to come back for a part 2, but let's just bang it out.
Well, you know what I would rather
and then
have?
do the fun.
Let me tell you this. This is another difference in opinion. You know, keep it pro and all that.
Yep.
We should have started the interview on time, all that. I appreciated the time hanging out with you before the cameras are on, than afterwards.
So
if it took that you wouldn't want to come back and do an interview with me, but our personal relationship was better, I'd be happy with that.
No, I didn't say I don't want to come back.
I know you
come
did.
Back.
You do want to come back.
Yeah.
So it actually means the personal time before it, though we weren't being
was even
pro,
more valuable.
it was more valuable. Exactly. So with that being said, we got the man Chris Got Rocks right here. We've gone through things like anxiety. We've gone through damn near every single psychosocietal issue you could possibly go through as a grown man. But you know what? We've had some real conversations. So with that, I want to say, Chris Got Rocks, I know you don't want to expose it right now, so we can't even get to the New Toronto segment with you. But we know that you have something on the way. We'll let you allude to it in whichever way you want. I can be abrasive. You can be submissive. We'll allow that to be what it is. All right? You can be subtle. Sorry, submissive sounds real pause-worthy, right?
Yeah.
All right, so pause. I'll pause that. No disrespect, because this guy's my OG. I think everybody listening right now understands the level of respect I have for him, because anybody else, I would have gone so hard in that conversation with and said, fuck your interview. But right now, I can't, because he's right. This is the man. Much love to you, Chris. Honestly, I really wish you would tell us what you have on the horizon, but I understand you not doing it because you are a calculated person. And you've taught me different levels of calculation, do different things. And the amount of things that I've learned from you, the amount of opportunities you brought past the table to me, which we didn't even get a chance to touch on many of them in this situation. We've spoken about them, but the most simple being, when I came here, you told me it would be a better life. And when you said that to Friday on We Love Hip Hop, I laughed my fucking ass off because I'm like, that's verbatim what this man said to me. And it told me that you have the type of photographic imagery memory that I kind of do to degrees. Like, certain moments, I'll remember... God damn, shit, my kid would tell me what she wants for her birthday and I'll forget. But I remember the moment that I was standing in a room and Chris Got Rocks told me that I should do this instead of this. Or I'll remember the moment where I was in a room having a conversation about this song and where this line should go place here, like my... You know, and I think that goes to the passion and the love of the music. It doesn't matter where you're from, it's where you at. Like Rakim said, it doesn't matter where you grow up. It doesn't matter what your situations are, as long as you can relate to a music and culture. You guys came up in a time where you were defining the music and the culture, an important time in Toronto hip-hop history. And we just really got to scratch the surface. But the important part is, you honestly, the conversations we had today, minus the psychoanalysis where you told me I should lie on your couch, aside from that, all the conversations that we had today really was the most eye-opening conversations I've had about the early Toronto hip-hop culture, the viewpoints of it, especially you, your upbringing, the different places you grew up, your introductory level of relating to it. These are exactly the conversations I'm looking to have. And if it means that we have to do a part 2 to really cover your history and a part 2 to really cover the new Toronto segment, that's fucking fine with me, as long as it's fine with you, my man.
Yeah, man. I'm talking 4 decades, bro.
Well,
4 decades. That's
it's
a long
lot
time,
to
man.
cover. I mean, I just started my 3rd decade.
Right.
So I basically have to outlive you another 10 years to even be mentally prepared to talk about the other 10. Right?
It's possible.
Fair assessment?
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's all... I could give you the Coles notes.
We don't want that.
Right?
We want to have the real conversation.
Yeah.
But I gotta ask you this. Who was the baddest... This is a bad question for somebody who has any sort of... Anyways, fuck it.
Yeah.
Who was the baddest Toronto video vixen of all time?
See, now he's all conscious of what he's saying. Who's the baddest video vixen?
Yeah, from Toronto.
Oh, man. I don't know.
We had a lot of them.
There was a lot.
And you witnessed all of them.
There's tons, yeah.
Yeah,
It was
and
at
you
video
witnessed
shoots.
every single one
It
of
was
them.
at video shoots with them. I don't know.
All right, well, you got to relax.
Fuck.
I'm not asking you those types of details.
Yeah.
Who's the baddest?
I don't know.
All right, fuck it.
Well, what do you define as bad?
No, you know what?
I think the most successful.
I don't want to judge women on
Yeah.
appearance because actually, to me,
Good.
the most attractive quality is who they are.
Right.
Like, I can't fuck a chick I can't look at and like.
Melissa
gel
Ford's
with.
pretty gangster.
Okay. Who had the coolest personality? You say Melissa Ford?
Well, no, that's not what the question was.
Well, that's where I was edging it to
Oh,
before you
the
said it.
coolest personality. Fuck, I don't know. You know what?
Personality makes someone
Everybody's got a
sexy.
cool personality because everybody's a human, a person. Right,
That's
so it's-
the best answer you could give.
Well, as long as you're cool with me, I'm cool with you. Is that
Yeah,
simple?
but some people have shitty personalities.
Yeah, but if you're smart, if you're me, then you take that shitty personality and just flip it. Look at
Same
you.
thing.
I got you apologizing for judging women by their looks. Come on. You see what I just accomplished in the last 3 minutes? You wouldn't have done that if I didn't bust your balls.
I would.
Or we didn't
No,
bust your balls
no,
just
no,
now.
no.
Do you know who I am?
I don't
No,
need
do
to
you
judge
really know
women
who
by
I
their
am?
looks. That just depends on where my
That's
penis
everybody
lands, not
judged.
everybody.
Everybody's judged by their looks.
But there's another fucking question. You're not gonna
Okay.
divert me out of asking
Okay.
you this fucking thing.
Okay.
So I seen a fucking video clip of this man on Much Music introducing Danny-O rapping as a fucking teenager, and I want to know about it. I want to know about the scrawny little Chris Jackson with the flat top and the blue sweater on, going, "Hey everybody!" I want to know about this guy. Tell me about him. Who was he? Why was he at Much Music? And tell me about this period of your life, and then we'll end this shit.
I think that particular clip is because Hutchie was
Okay.
putting on a show in Mississauga. It was called Rap Fest or something like that. And I was with a group called Self Defense. They were performing. I was also producing for a group called Beats Control, and these are both from Flemo.
Yep.
They were performing.
You were with a group called Self Defense.
Yeah,
What do you
sorry.
mean
When I
by
say
that?
with, I was DJing. So that was
Okay,
me and S
okay.
Blank. Right?
Gotcha.
And you're out there like the goddamn host hype man, though.
Yeah, because that was my role.
Okay.
Pretty
okay,
much,
okay,
right?
Okay. Yep.
So I came out as the hype man just to warm up the crowd and introduce some of the acts performing. Like Top Secret was on the bill. I can't remember.
And
Danny-O.
it was Electric
Probably Lindo
Circus,
P
right?
was on the bill.
Lindo P was there, yeah. It was
Yeah.
Electric Circus, though,
Yeah,
right?
it was Electric Circus. Right? And even look at Lindo. Like Lindo's like
You guys are young.
we were young, but like he's the man, right? Like he's been the man for a long time, right? But and I remember Hutchie teaching Lindo how to DJ. When I say DJ, I mean reggae, how to play, rhythms. And then he would practice. I remember being in Hutchie's basement and Lindo would be there and practice. And he'd get on the mic. You know what I'm saying? And it just all developed from a love of music. And then you emulate what you want to do. Right?
The Danny-O
And even
moment
starting
is-
from scratch, like Hutchie, there's the connection there.
Really?
Yes. Scratch used to go to Hutchie's too and just
No way.
and learn how to DJ and to look for breaks. I'm telling you, everything and everybody who's anybody connects back to the park.
Everybody references Hutchie. Like
I'm telling
a
you.
lot of
I don't know who
people.
you've spoke to, but that's good to hear.
I've heard his name multiple times just in this program.
Right. Well, in this program, yeah. But Hutchie's like the Ron Nelson who didn't get the Ron Nelson.
All right, so for For the people listening, this has been a rocky ride of an interview this time. This is what happens when you interview people that are close.
It was
to
off
you.
the rails, man.
It was off the rails. But we covered a lot of different things. But we only got about, I would say, at very most 2/3 of the way through the story that I wanted to get through, if not maybe a little less, 50-50. But the thing is this. Chris got Rocks Jackson here. Not only is he my mentor, many other people's mentors who you may not even realize, has he played an integral role in the Toronto and Canadian hip-hop scene since its inception, really, on a grand scale. But not beyond all of these things, and him throwing the recycling bin that I was just married to off of the radio show desk here, this man is not only what his reputation exceeds him to be, but he is a great human being. And this is the important part that I think a lot of people lose sight of, is in this game, it's about what can you do for me, what opportunity can you provide me, in which way is this mutually beneficial, and which I think with somebody with as many years in stature as he has in this game, in this industry, that's an inevitable, instinctual, almost self-protection barrier you have to put up against yourself to defend your time, your reputation, everything else that comes along with it. But at the same time, I've never seen this man take a shortage of presenting people who cannot provide him anything more than a piece of shit concept or idea, and give them fucking opportunities and give them a chance to prove themselves. And whether they prove themselves or not, he gave them the opportunity. And from there, it depends on what you bring to the table and how far that goes from there. But what I can say is this, is with somebody who has so much time, years, blood, sweat, and tears put into what Canadian hip-hop, Toronto hip-hop means, has become, and the stages in between from its infancy to the middle ground, which we didn't even get to talk about today, and we will another day, and everything else far and beyond to East Park Pro, carrying on to Big Ticket and everything else, and the things that if you are not aware of, you need to research. This man has always provided opportunities for people up and coming, whether they had proven themselves to that point or not, as long as he believed in them. And I think these are the types of people that when we speak about gatekeepers, though he has never actually really been that or played that role in the sense, in the negative aspect, we need more people like Chris in these positions of power to be able to enable and nurture the roots of the upgrowing younger generations, for them to grow and flourish to be what they need to be. And Chris, I just want to thank you for your time, man. We could go for hours and hours and hours on multiple nights, I'm sure.
We did.
Well, we did. And like I said, we only scratched the surface, but I really want to thank you for your time. I know your time is important. I know when we get together, it's like catching up, but at the same time, your time is important, and I don't want you to think just because I enjoy spending the time with you, shooting the shit, having laughs, that I don't value the importance of the conversation as well. And I think the in-depthness of what we covered today was imperative to the overall story at hand, of which all of this is going to roll out to at some point in one day,
Boom. Respect. That's all I can say. Thank you.